we're still in an age where I said the word vagina in front of a grown-ass man the other week and watched him visibly shudder. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. It is so great to see you. I even put on makeup for you. Not much, but I did it. My name is Clary. I upload bookish and writing videos every Sunday and every other Tuesday. I'm very new at it, but I am getting there. So I was going to make a completely different video today, but that wasn't working out at all. And I just read Emily Ratajkowski's piece for The Cut, and so I wanted to have more of a chat/rant, we'll see how it goes, about bodies in literature. I feel like this is it's a topic that I'm really passionate about and think about a lot, and obviously it's too big a topic to make just one video about, so I might make it a series. I would really like to maybe make it a series, maybe get some other contributors, do some bits with some of my friends, but just for this video I want to concentrate on periods and why we need to see more periods in literature. So I sort of split this video up into several different topics. There's so much to talk about on this topic. I can't possibly talk about everything, but these are probably the points that I guess I have the most to say about. So as with all my videos, if I've left something out and that's problematic, please tell me. I want to learn, I always want to be better. If I've left something out that isn't problematic, I mean, feel free to tell me, but I just need to kind of get it out now that it won't have been deliberate. It won't be for any bad reason. I hope, just like I say, these are the topics that I have the most to say about, and I don't want to leave you sat here for too long. So for the first part of this video, I want to talk about shame. I feel like there's still, for quite a lot of people who have them, a lot of shame around periods. I don't think they've been normalised. You know, I'll talk to other people and they really don't want me to say the word period. Or, you know, we're still in an age where I said the word vagina in front of a grown-ass man the other week and watched him visibly shudder. I think we're still in a time when people kind of are like, ugh, a tampon, how disgusting, instead of, ugh, a tampon, a completely normal thing that a lot of people need to go about their daily life. And if you're wondering why literature comes in, it's sort of a two-part thing. So literature works as this amazing tool to help people see themselves and feel seen. We know that we're there with that. And to see periods and menstrual issues in general in literature could be this really great thing. I feel like, especially for a middle grade and YA audience, for people who have periods, who are just beginning to, and who are still working it out and still getting more confident and still just having to cope with this very dramatic thing that happens. I feel like it could be really important and really useful, and help people be like, oh look, that character also is, you know, has to cope with this every month. And then also, you know, I feel like I'm going to refer back to YA fiction a lot, but we create these narratives about these amazing characters that kind of save the world and do these incredible things, and they do, and they are incredible. And I'm not saying that every single YA character who has periods must have a period on, you know, in a scene, but otherwise we're creating role models or choosing role models that kind of don't go through what is a very everyday experience. And I just worry that it kind of might subconsciously kind of make people feel like they have to hide things like having periods or any other thing that a body might do that is less than ideal in order to be the hero. I feel like literature could be a great resource for young people who have periods to sort of have the affirmation of seeing their experiences, and also to kind of be like, yeah, heroes have periods, villains have periods, everyone who is going to have a period has a period. It's just, you're not shameful, your body isn't bad in any way, all bodies are good bodies. I feel like literature has a real power to do that, and it doesn't do that, and I think that's a real shame. And then the next thing I want to talk about is sort of tied into the shame, is sort of tied into the shame thing, but I want to talk about menstrual health and reproductive issues. And I sort of kind of want to talk about this in two parts. I want to talk about kind of, again, literature as an educational tool, and then, again, literature as a representative tool. Kind of literature as being educational, menstrual health is really important. It's really, really important, and it's not something that even people who have periods are really taught about that much. There are all kinds of issues related to menstruation, whether that's endometriosis or irregular periods, issues related to kind of contraception and periods, that people who have periods are really, in general, I think have to, let's be honest, find out through word of mouth, and through informal conversation with other people who have periods. We're basically told as people who have periods that you're going to have them and they're going to hurt, and that's it. We're not told what's a normal amount of blood, we're not told what's a normal amount of pain, we're not told about all the other physical and emotional aspects of menstrual health. And I feel like if I had a character that I could look to, or even just a character that goes through similar things, that would have emboldened me to kind of push more and find out what my body was doing, that could have been really, really useful. And then this is sort of linked to the shame thing, but I think just in general it's important to have characters that both have good and bad menstrual health, so that just people are kind of feel more emboldened, again, as I guess the word, to talk about their menstrual health, so that when there are problems, people might find the problems sooner because they feel more comfortable talking about them. They don't feel like it's this big thing that they need kind of to tuck away. And then again, this issue of representation, menstrual issues can really fuck you up. Menstrual issues and reproductive issues are causes of experiences that can be extremely painful, both emotionally and physically for people. I've touched on endometriosis, reproductive issues, infertility issues. There's all this pain that is very common to the experience of being a person who has periods, and to not see that reflected in literature is hard, as it is for all people who don't see their experiences reflected in literature. And these issues are isolating, and the great thing about being a reader is that you don't have to be alone. I just feel like literature's real power is to comfort and to provide an example to live by, or a place to go to. And I feel like if we had a wider range of issues of kind of menstrual health problems, it would just be a real comfort to a lot of people. I know that it would mean a lot. So the third part of the video, I kind of want to talk about some of the representation of periods I have seen in fiction, which again has still been pretty minimal. So I can't think of ever reading a normalised experience of periods. I can only ever think of it being one of two things, either a really traumatizing experience or a really symbolic experience. So we'll talk about the traumatizing experience first. There are often scenes in a YA, or like in early YA, late middle grade, contemporary, where a girl has her period and it gets all over her skirt and everyone laughs at her, and it's a really like shameful thing and it makes her feel awful. And that does happen to a lot of people, and But not everyone does. Not everyone's periods are like deeply traumatizing experiences, and we need the range. We need the full range of things, really, so that, because I think it is helpful for people who have had the traumatizing experiences to see that reflected and be like, okay, I'm okay. But I would also go and say that the depictions I've seen aren't like comforting, oh, you'll be fine things. They tend to be like, ha, look at that person, you know, that's not helpful at all. And again, just kind of normalize periods, they're normal. And then the other thing is the kind of the symbolic period, and you get this a lot in books written by men, and I'm thinking particularly of fantasy books written by men, and I'm thinking particularly of a certain really famous fantasy series written by a man, which I don't want to spoil, but there is a scene in that really famous fantasy series written by a guy, which might have had multiple Emmy Awards seasons of a TV show produced by HBO, where a character with white hair and some dragons gets her period, and she's not had her period for a long time because of plot reasons, and it's this big like symbolic meaningful moment. It's a symbol of the fact that she's kind of made the right choices. She's drifted away from who she was, and then she's back to being who she was, and we know that because she's having her period. God damn it. I think it's a sort of quite cheap depiction of infertility issues, which is what that character has, and I feel like people with infertility issues deserve better. As a representation of a period, it's not problematic, but it's just like, they're not magic. They're not magic. I think what I'm just going to keep saying throughout all this video is that periods are deeply normal. The only reason we think that they're not are because of a system created which wants us to believe that uterine reproductive systems are somehow lesser or weaker, so that we can conceive of the people who have them as lesser or weaker, which is bullshit. And the way that some tropes in literature exist at the moment does enforce that belief. What I'm trying to say is that we have to depict these things more, and we have to depict them in a more nuanced way, because the way that we depict them does clearly really matter, and we're not doing a good enough job. And finally, I want to talk about the way we don't depict the people who don't have periods. By which I mean that birth control is really underrepresented in literature, other than I forgot to take mine way, and menopause is really underdepicted in literature. The birth control issue is normalised. Women have taken birth control in books 2K20. A lot of people do. A lot of people who have periods take birth control. A lot of periods who have people. A lot of people who have periods don't take birth control, but it's not the things I used to read about in YA books. Oh my goodness, that person's taking birth control. Actually, I won't name the book, but I did once read a YA book, and like one of the side characters' character traits was that she has a prescription for birth control even though she's not having sex, and she takes the pills so that her breath will smell of them, so people will think she's having sex. What? Birth control, again, is a hugely stigmatized issue, and that stigma could be addressed by it kind of appearing more in literature. And then just my final point, the lack of depiction of the menopause in literature is indicative of a general ageism in literature. Where are the main characters who are over 35 but don't have kids? Literature isn't telling all the stories that it could be telling. All the books that there could be about characters who are not just young and gorgeous, or I'm sure gorgeous but not as young. We exist in a world where we sort of try and pretend that exciting things, or really things at all, stop happening to people after they hit about 40, and that's obviously creating an incredibly emotionally awful environment for people of that age. And it's also just, we're missing out on so much, and that's so wrong, and so stupid. I hope that if we could talk about periods more in literature, we could talk about not having periods more in literature, and just talk about all of the things that these bodies of ours do. So to sort of sum up what I've said in this video, my general point is that literature exists as this incredible tool to both educate and to comfort. The literature that we have at the moment generally could be doing a better job, because it's not representing, providing comfort for, educating about a huge thing that happens to so many people. And by doing that, it is helping to cultivate and enforce a culture of shame, and a culture of really just irresponsibility. I do think it is irresponsible to enforce that culture when people's menstrual health issues can be life-threatening or cause real emotional damage. Literature could help combat that. It could be the tool by which we sort of broke open some stigmas, some stereotypes, and began to have conversations. And it is a real shame, and I'm going to say it again, it is irresponsible that it doesn't do so. Like I said, you're probably going to see way more videos about the body in literature, probably more about reproductive and health issues in literature, because this is the thing that I'm really passionate about. But hopefully I will get some other lovely people to join me with that. And just let me know what you think of that idea of making this a series, and what you would like to see videos on. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, if you could click like and subscribe, or maybe leave a comment. Look after yourselves. I'll see you soon.